What's up out there, YouTube? Double D here with Tournage Dubois. Welcome back. We're not in the shop right now, but it is January 1st, 2024. I've got a truckload of pecan. So we're going to pick out a piece, cut it roundish with the chainsaw because they are really large. And we're going to rough turn it, get it in grain sealed, throw it in the kiln, come back after a little bit and finish turn it. So this is going to be a long video in time, but not for you all. We'll keep it as short as possible. But we're going to take a look here in the back of the truck, see what we got. So we've got a lot of pecan here, just some absolute great graining. We've got these crotch pieces here. So we're going to do one of these crotch pieces. We're going to get it marked, a center spot figured out, mark it around 20 inches, 24 inches in diameter, something like that. Mark it round, and then I'll chainsaw as many of the rough edges off, and then we will get it started turning. So let's go from there. Let's take a look at these two crotch pieces that I've got, and we'll see which one we like better. All right, so I've looked at them, and I think this is the one I'm going to go with. I mean, this is just absolutely monstrous because my hand is roughly 8.5, 9 inches thumb to fingertip. That is just a huge piece. The big thing is I've got another large piece back there in the person's backyard. It's about 46 inches in diameter. I have a 20-inch chainsaw blade, couldn't cut all the way through it going both sides. So gonna get a bigger chainsaw from a friend of mine, and we're gonna go back and get that finished up. So that's gonna be another fun day's project. So first of all, big shout out to my friend Jack for going and helping out with it, with cutting it up, getting it loaded, all that good stuff. And then my other friend Jim at Garnered Wood on Instagram. So check him out if you don't follow him already. But he met me and we both filled up our pickup trucks, and we've still got a big piece left to go. Let's get this thing marked and get it working. All right, so I have this piece with a nail here in the center mark. So I'm going to tie this string around it so I can get a nice sized circle out of this, keeping that feathering, a little bit of live edge. And we will cut off the excess. So just going to tie the string around this pencil, and that'll give us a nice circle that we will be able to use. And just keep in mind, this is a ballpark circle, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to get roughly, because that way it'll make it a little bit easier to get it on the lathe and go from there. So I'll chainsaw off some of these edges and go from there. All right, so we are left with our blank that is roughly 27 inches across. So that is a large piece. Gonna keep this as the bottom. So we'll put a tenon on here. So we'll get it cleaned up, tenon, flipped around, hollowed out. We wanna leave it 10% thickness so for it to dry. So that's almost 3 inches thick all throughout. Get it sealed up and thrown in the kiln. All right, so I started off at 150 RPM, got all the way up to a whopping speed of 200 RPM, but we've got this outside finished. Good enough for sanding. Sealer got our rough shape. Here's a chainsaw mark in the front top edge, but when we reshape the outside, when we get, after we get it dried, then we will be turning that off anyway. So we're going to test the moisture content. I have it on high, so the highest it'll read is up to 35. So we'll just check the end grain here. And it went all the way up to 27 on the end grain. So 27%, there's 27 to 35. So somewhere right in there is where it is testing. Yeah, so we're pretty wet on this. Anywhere from 27 up to 35 is the moisture content. That's the percentage. So it's got to be nice and dried. We'll get that dried out and go from there. But we will get this flipped around in the chuck jaws and get the inside hollowed out. Now I had this on a faceplate ring with the small chuck jaws. A piece this large, I would not recommend using the small chuck jaws unless you can use your tailstock, which will take some of that pressure off. So we'll be using this chuck with the bigger jaws. These are about 100 millimeters. So we'll be using that to secure for the back. All right, so we now have this flipped around and we are down to 24-inch diameter. So we started out at 27. We've taken about 3 inches off. So we are about 24 inches in diameter. So with a rule of 10%, we want to leave this just over. We want to leave the walls roughly 2.5 inches thick. So I'm going to start hollowing approximately where the post is. So that's 3 inches. I'll come out just a little bit from there, but that'll leave us plenty of room for the bowl to move a little bit as it dries, and then we will be able to finish it up nicely. All right, so we have that rough turned. It's not going to be finished. Feels rough as is. Got our greenwood end sealer from Rockler. So what I'll do, pour that into this cup. And then we're just going to coat all the bare wood piece on this. And then we'll get that thrown in the kiln. Hey everybody, welcome back. It is April 23rd. This piece of pecan has been in the kiln for 4 months. It is about as dry as it's ever gonna get. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this tenon reshaped, shape the bottom and the outside, then we will get this thing flipped around and work on the inside. So this is just an absolutely large piece, but we will see what we can do with it and get it going. So let's roll. All right, so we got that flipped around. We got our large chuck jaws on there. So now we will start shaping the outside better with it being in the chuck and go from there. right, we are back. So I have that. I did hit that roughly just real quick with 60 grit sandpaper. So now we're going to use our sanding sealer on this so that we can get the grain to stiffen up just a little bit and do another cut back of the piece. I did not get this over 340 RPM at any point. I did try, and my lathe was wobbling just because of how offset this piece is. So got a few ridges in here. I just want to stiffen up the grain, and then I can go back and get this with the scraper, and we'll be able to get this cleaned up just a little bit more before we start fully sanding it. So this is going to take me a while to get this on, so I won't talk through it, but I'll bring it back and show it to you just before we let it dry. All right, so we have that all sanding sealed. It's almost dry here on the front. Here on the back, it is still pretty wet because that's what we got done, but the spalting is really cool. The graining and feathering in that is really cool. So we will let that finish drying up, and then we will hit it with our scraper to cut it back a little bit, and then we will start our sanding and finish process. So see you in a few. All right, we have that sanded up to 320 grit. So now we're going to hit it with our denatured alcohol. This is by far the largest piece I've ever done. For any of you who have watched this channel for a prolonged period of time know that. Previous lathe couldn't handle anything over 16 inches over the bed. So this one, obviously, the jet, with this being the Rikon 70-30-40, I can handle up to a 30-inch diameter. This piece started out at 27 inches before I got it down to round. Got it rounded off, and now it's at 24 inches with the walls and the base being approximately 2 inches thick. I wanted to keep it nice and hefty to give plenty of room for that bark to stay on. So we'll get this cleaned up here, and then we'll hit it with our 400 grit, and then we will get our base taken off and the tenon, and then we will get to finishing. So I won't bore you with all that, but see you in a few. All right, so this is obviously quite a large tenon and base that we couldn't get sanded. I'm going to be using a grinder with a grinding wheel to take this off. So I'll show you that process. I am going to use some Starbond thick or medium thick on these cracks down here, these inclusions, just to fill those in, and we'll get a good finish on those as well. And then we'll get this base taken off. But if you need some Starbond CA glue, there's a link in the description down below. You can use that and or the coupon code DD15, and you'll get a 15% discount on your purchase from Starbond. Looks like a little smiley face right there. We use our accelerator. That'll cure that up, and then we'll put another batch in. We're going to let that set, and then we'll be back to grind a little. All right, we are back with our grinder, and I got some carving discs from Graph. I'll put a link to those down below. They sent these to me, asked me to test them out and see how they work. So inside the box, we have both a curved disc with pretty good looking teeth, and then we have a flat disc for the carving. So let's pop this out real quick, take a look. Here's the curved disc. Good teeth on that, looks like, so we will give that one a try, see how that works. We've got a washer that we'll use to put on it to help keep it in place for centered, and we'll go from there. We might try out the flat disc also, but we'll at least start with the rounded off disc. Well, that definitely takes off a good amount of material quickly. Teeth don't look too awfully clogged, so I think that's a good thing. Do it just a little bit more, and then we'll get to sanding this the base of this, and go from there. Now I'm going to try out the flat disc. Alright, so that took a lot of the ridges out from the rounded edge one, so now we will get to sanding. I will not bore you with that because it will take a while. And for our finish on this one, we're going to use Mahoney's. It's a heat-treated filtered walnut oil. I really like how it permeates the wood and really gives a nice finish. Nozzle is a little clogged up, so I'm just going to take the cap off. We can do it that way. I really like how it just accentuates the graining in this. Normally, as those of you who have watched my channel for a while know, I do like to use Brad's Tung honey on pieces like this. With this being a piece of pecan, I just wanted to try something a little bit different. Haven't used this finish in a while, and I always like how it ends up looking. So we're going to end up being good with this one too. Just really work that up on that all the bare wood. Make sure that it gets into the end grain, especially because it will soak up into there and we'll be able to potentially need to do a second coat. So what I'll do is I'll wipe this all around with my glove, my hand, and then I'll go back with a paper towel and work it around a little bit more, and that'll soak up some of the excess, and then we'll be able to get the base done. But that feathering is beautiful, the grain is beautiful, the spalting is absolutely spectacular to see. So very, very excited about this piece and how it's turning out. Now I will let that set for a little bit and then get that, like I said, hit that with a paper towel, and then I'll flip it over and get the base done. I won't show you all that, but the graining is going to be amazing, so I'll see you when we're back for the wrap-up. Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that process where we took the Pecan Crotch, 27 inches when I first started it, rough cut it down to 24, threw it in the kiln for a few months, and then came back and finished it. So here is the finished piece. This thing is 24 inches across, about 4 inches deep, maybe a little bit deeper than that. Got it finished with the Mahoney's oil, kept the live edge on it, got it engraved with the logo. And this thing is a beast. Super happy with it. And then I used those grinding wheels to cut off the tenon on the bottom and smooth that up so I could sand that. I will tell you that because of this lathe speed of only getting to go about 300 RPM at the most, for the most part, I got up to 350, 360 a couple of times. Sorry, I had to go set that thing down. But because of the lathe speed, I had to start out sanding with 60 grit, so it was literally over an hour of sanding with 60 grit just on the inside of the bowl to get as many of those tool marks out as I possibly could. just because of that speed. Now I will tell you, when people call it PecanCrete, they are not joking, because when that thing got dry after being in my kiln, those pieces coming off hurt. So I had to put that smock on, as you saw. So I started out in the t-shirt, ended up with the smock. Because those pieces were so sharp and jagged coming off, it was just like concrete. So definitely no joke. PecanCrete is a real wood. If this is your first time here, please do consider subscribing. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down. Either way, leave your comment, your feedback down below. Like I said, I will put a link to those grinding wheels on Amazon. I'll put a link to that down below in the description. So if you need some for your grinder, they do work great. They take off a lot of material quickly, and I was really happy with how they work. They didn't clog up, and they seemed to cut for a prolonged period of time. So definitely check those out, and we'll catch you all next time.